It's been 2 weeks since I recorded my knitting, and I've been knitting lots. Now I got to the stage where this back panel I've been knitting is ready to be shaped for the arm. We're just at that underarm point. Oh, can I step back? There we go. To a nice length. Now I'm quite tall, so I actually knitted it slightly longer than the pattern was suggesting, but that's the joy of making your own things. You can adjust it to fit you. So I did. I've done a couple of inches longer than the pattern guidance had been. Oh, I've just noticed I've got a tree popping out my ears. So I did this bit and got to the arm reducing stage and wanted to call in on you before I started shaping the arm space. But I had a few days of work coming up, and I like doing a little bit of knitting during my tea breaks and in the evening when I get home. So I thought, well, what can I knit? Because I don't want to take this any further until I've shown you. So I decided to start on a sleeve. So I started a sleeve on a second set of needles, and I've done loads of that too. It's going really fast, mainly because it's half the width of the back panel. So since I called in on you 2 weeks ago, I've knitted a big chunk more on the back panel, and I started on a sleeve. So now I've spoken to you, I can get back to this and start adjusting that sleeve shape. It is now the 30th of November. My hope was I just might manage to finish it for Christmas. No chance. Not gonna happen. Not unless I spend a couple of solid days just knitting. It's the 1st of December tomorrow, so we've only got a few more weeks and it'll be Christmas. Which doesn't matter. It's not a Christmas... oh dear. It's not a Christmas present. It was just a nice goal to aim for. Well, I've given up aiming for finishing by Christmas. It'll be finished when it's finished. It's just something nice and relaxing to do with any spare minutes of time I happen to have. Rather than sitting doing nothing, I can be slowly working away at making this jumper. So I'm very pleased, it's going nicely. A back panel and half a bit of sleeve. Hello knitters, and welcome back to another week of knitting. I say hello knitters because I imagine they're the only people still watching this boring knitting video is anyone that actually already knits or is planning to start knitting. I've had another brilliant week and managed to successfully complete the back panel. I've done all that armhole shaping. It was really good because as it got narrower and narrower, as I worked up the back of the jumper, each row got faster and faster because I was losing stitches on each side. So it actually progressed quite quickly. So I've sat you further away from me than normal, so you can actually see the whole piece in video shot. Now it's still sitting on a knitting needle, and my pattern said I'm not to finish this off at this point. I'm supposed to thread my stitches onto a stitch holder and put this to one side while I carry on and knit the left and right panels for the front. I do have a stitch holder, she says, somewhere, looking for it. Oh, here it is. So I've got a stitch holder. It's basically like an enormous safety pin that you can thread on. I don't know how well that's showing up. We've got the wrong colour in the background. So it's just this big safety pin that you thread your stitches onto. But I think for the moment, even though I have a stitch holder in my knitting supplies, I'm just going to get a spare knitting needle and thread that on. So another great week of knitting. Where are we? Yes. So this, not particularly long piece of wool is the end of my ball of wool. It was fantastic. I managed to get this whole back panel knitted using one of my large balls of wool. I've got myself a second ball out ready to start my front panels. It's actually 250 grams and it was enough wool to knit the whole back panel on this jumper. So that was really nice. No joining up wools. One whole piece, and this is all I've got left, is this little tiny bit here. It might have been slightly longer if I hadn't used this wool to do the little trial tester squares, but it's perfect. So now I've got my back panel, I'm going to thread that onto a spare knitting needle and put it to one side for the moment. Take my new ball of wool and make a start on the front. So we'll see how far I can get with the front panel for next week. Now I did make an error on my back panel and I'll bring you in close and show you where my mistake is, or what my mistake is. I'm not going to change it or fix it. It's just going to stay like that. I'll bring you in for a close-up look and say goodbye for today. What are we today? We're the 7th of December, I think. So getting pretty close to Christmas. Definitely no chance of being finished by Christmas Day. Never mind. It's not a Christmas gift, so it really doesn't matter. So here's a closer look at that panel where we start shaping it inwards for the armhole. And as we start our shaping, in each row of knitting, once the little end bits are done on the side here, we carry on following the pattern of the jumper. Now over here, this was fine with this V shape that I have going on. I was able to continue with one leg of the V and the other leg disappeared into the outside edge. But on this side, I could not work out how to get this V happening. It should have been a sort of bumpy bit along here, a raised piece, but I just couldn't get my head around it. So I've got this sort of smooth blank bit. But not to worry, when I'm out marching about, I don't think anyone's going to notice, and I certainly won't notice because it'll be behind me. I just couldn't get my head around how I could get those stitches to do that in that position. So I don't know, something to practice for the future? It's looking great. I'm really happy. Right, some more knitting.